interest has been more with the industry. To tell you the truth, I joined the industry just by mistake. There was a story that was told to me when I was a young man or a little boy, that they had special cubicles for watching films. I'd read that in a storybook, and I was so enthused about that. That's why I chose to do mining. And I got the root shock of my life when I got there, that the cubicles were still underground. And having spent some time in the mining industry, I decided to rather, you either taste not or you drink deep. So if I'm with the mining industry, then I'm going to drink deep. And I want us to talk about the Mining Investment Fund. It's an idea that we have generated over the period. And before I go into Mining Investment Fund, I want us to just look at this graph. This graph I took from Goldfields. This graph, I'll give all the credit to Dr. Isbe Bonsu when he gave his lecture at the alumni lectures, I think, last month. And this graph really excited me. And I want us to look at the GDP of the country and the role the mining company plays, the mining industry plays in Ghana. Ghana's mining industry is predominantly dominated by the gold industry. So if we talk about the tempo or the temperature of the Ghana mining industry, it's the gold price. And you see from this graph how correlated the gold price is with the the growth of Ghana, the GDP or the economy of Ghana. So if this is the case in Ghana, then we ask ourselves, how are we handling the industry in Ghana? And I'm here today just to pick your minds, juggle it, and let you start looking at the industry in a holistic manner, and not just as we've been doing as miners in the past. If this is really the state of our industry in relation to the gold, to the GDP of Ghana, then we ask ourselves, how are we treating the industry? The three stakeholders of the industry is the government, the community, and we seated here. How is the government treating, that stakeholder government treating the industry? We'll measure the treatment of our industry by government by the way it does its appointments into the industry. Do we have the right people running the industry for government? Do they understand the industry? These are the questions, these are the relevant questions that we must ask ourselves. If this is the state of our industry, the contribution of the industry gives to the state. The other thing is the community. Yesterday we learned about diversity and inclusion. How well diverse is the community, and how well is it included in the decision making of the mining industry? And then it comes to ourselves. Again, diversity and inclusion. Do we feel ourselves part of the industry or not? And these are the relevant questions we must ask ourselves if we want this industry, that young as we are, we want to really contribute to the industry. Who are those who make the decisions for the industry? And for the purpose of this conference, I am not going to look at the other two stakeholders, but I'll look at us, we that are gathered in here. From the beginning of the last 3 days, we've heard about marvelous things about technology, changes in the industry, things that are going to happen in the industry for the future, how technology is changing the dynamics of mining, petroleum, and everything. And we just saw the laser gyro, the gyro that we just saw, how easy it is that we can determine the structures of geology. It tells you that there are changes going on. But how is that contributing to that graph, the GDP, how is that contributing to it? That's the question I'm asking ourselves. And as professionals, we show very least interest in the total development of the industry. We are often we are behaving like ostriches. We leave the industry to people who do not understand the industry. We have our heads right in the sand, and they are beating us left, right, and center. All they are asking for, give us more royalties, give us more taxes, because they do not understand the industry. And as professionals of the industry, our heads are hidden in the bowels of the earth, underground, in the pit. Maybe I'm giving it too much to us ourselves. We are happy with our perceived big salaries. But what is a big salary when you don't have control over the area where you have to spend it? When you cannot influence the environment in which the big salaries will have to be spent? We need to make ourselves relevant. And in the case of the economic space, how many miners or how many professionals from our industry do we see in the economic space of this country? How many miners amongst ourselves do we see in the regulatory space of this country? The Minerals Commission, he had telling us a few hours or a few days ago that they lack bodies. They don't just lack bodies, they lack experienced bodies. They need the brains. And the brains are all sitting in the mine with our heads in the sand, leaving the bigger area for people who do not understand to make decisions. If we really want to influence the economy of the state, as we see from the graph, then we have to inundate every space in the economy. We are not enough, it's not enough to be a geologist, a mining engineer, a metallurgist, or just any other engineer or a geoscientist. Until we can inundate the space where decisions are made for the mining industry, we have done nothing. Until we influence that space, we have done nothing. And the challenge to us is, what do we have to do in order to meet that criteria? If you take, for instance, the way the mining industry is treated, it's not that the government does not want to help the mining industry. Its hands are a lot. They have to go to so many areas. But if we are contributing that much to the GDP, then our roads and infrastructure to the mining areas should see a change. But the change will not be seen until we inundate or occupy the space, the economic space, until we occupy that regulatory space, until we occupy the environmental space as professionals. There is no way the industry is going to benefit. We saw yesterday when Ms. Ahmed put his graph with figures on the board. Over the last 5 years, we have dropped from 14.1% to 11.1%. Which tells you that we are nosediving. We will nosedive until there is a change in the mindset of us gathered here. What this conference seeks to do is to change your mindset, to look at things from a broader view, not that we just get out and say we are going to work in the mine. We have been in the mine, outside the mine, and we know that there are greater opportunities like in the mine, also like outside the mine. But you need the experience in the mine. And having gotten the experience in the mine, you need to come out and influence policy. You need to come out and influence economic decisions. And so we can do that. This graph will be good on paper, but not good for the industry. And as a result of that, we realize that the people who are coming to invest in the industry, obviously, are people with money from elsewhere. What do we have as a country? We have we ourselves here being trained, and we have the resources. What do we need in order to get this country changing? How do we influence this graph so that the monies that come out of this graph also reflect in the industry and reflect on us? Not with our perceived big salaries, but really influencing decisions in this country. And to do that, we have always thought about looking at things that we need to do. And we said that the problem in the country is not basically just the resources that we have or the people we have, but it's our inability to have the financial capability to push this agenda forward. Anybody who comes in with his money from outside would need his money back because he's borrowed the money from a bank outside. You and I, can we crowdfund and come together so that we can get some money from our resources? And this can only be done when we have the Mining Investment Fund. The Mining Investment Fund is very different from the Mining Development Fund. The Mining Development Fund basically has been developed as a result of the complaints from the community that the mining resources or the funds from the mining areas were not benefiting them. And therefore, is a meager part of the royalties that goes back to the communities and maybe help allied services in the industry. But this is a fund that we are looking at, a different fund altogether, that seeks to be an investment arm of the mining industry. It's not going to be operated by government. It's going to be privately owned with very experienced resource personnel. It mustn't just be miners. It will have to be, if we need mineral economists, we have mineral economists sitting on that board. And then we can go out to Ghanaian investors. The footballers have so much money. Where is the money going? They don't know where to invest. I'll tell you the truth, they invest it outside. If we can set such a fund and bring and attract such investments, then we can have money sitting in the country and therefore we can take over mines. I mean, if this fund was available, one mine sold shares of about $300 million a few months ago. 15 minutes. If this fund was available, we could have owned the fund. So I'm just tinkering your minds. Let us think and let's find a way of getting the Mining Investment Fund set up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, maybe it's not directly aimed at you, but so far, pardon me if this has been said, because I've been away for a little while. Where is our country mining vision? Because that usually underpins policies, regulations, investment direction, etc. And it's modeled after the African mining vision. Last time I heard, Ghana hasn't fully developed ours. So if we have, then I think I rest my case. If we haven't, what is being done? It's not only directed at you, but some of the policy makers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, I think it might be difficult for us as stakeholders or whatever to come together to bring our monies together and fund what?
Thank you.
Just like I heard today from Emmanuel on the artisanal mining. I don't know even the economics of it. I don't know how profitable it is. So until this information is made available, it will be very difficult for anybody to put their business or the footballers to bring their money into it. That's one side of it. I think the government at this stage, I'll still go back to the government. Sorry, I have to go back to Fred. There is a link between Asanko mining and then Goldfields. Why? They needed money. They had a loan. Therefore, they wanted to expand. They didn't want to go for more loans. Therefore, they sold half of their sister mine, Goldfields, and now they are moving on. You clear their debts. I'm sure Goldfields have sensed that they are going to make money out of this, profit out of this. Why did the government step in and then contribute something? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a situation where we are saying that persons are able to invest in the small scale area because there's no data. Who is going to finance and sponsor the data? Government hasn't got the resources to even do that. The data we heard from Stephen, that the mines are keeping the data. The data, even when it's given to government, they cannot even mine the data. So we need a separate investment arm which comes in and then is able to mine the data, to put things, professionalism in the mining area, including small scale mining, so that it becomes more attractive, so that when you bring your money in, you know where your money is going. And then we also, having that capability, can go out there and invest in other operations elsewhere. For instance, you talked about the Sanko. The amount of money they needed, if Mining Investment Fund had that money through crowdfunding, we would have gone in knowing personally the potential Asanko has. I would have gone in, but it's not there. So I'm just tingling your minds now, saying that we as a people can come and invest and stop just looking at government to invest. What the fund seeks to say is, if we can raise $50 million, for instance, from the fund, where we get astute investors, astute operators to run this organization, not Peter Amponsah Mensah, no. We'll go out and look for the best people to come and run it. For instance, I'll give you a clear case when we looked at the aluminum project. When it started, we had mining engineers, everybody trying to find a way out. Until one guy came and said, no, what we are doing is wrong. This is the process. That we need some professionals to run that industry, that company. It's not going to be a company that is going to be run by any Tom, Dick, and Harry. We get the best so that people will see that we can turn around the fortunes of Ghana by Ghanaian money. There is money sitting in Ghana, but people are not happy to apply the money. Then the previous first question was, yes, the African mining mission. It's being developed. The Ghana mining mission has been developed, but it needs a lot of restructuring for us to be able to implement the vision. Unfortunately, the sort of restructuring that is going on now is at variance with the mission that we seek to achieve. For instance, one of the missions says we develop every mineral in the country. But you see that the structure of Minerals Commission in itself seeks, although it's on paper that we are developing every mineral, it's skewed towards gold. How many aluminium economists do we have at the Minerals Commission? How many clay economists do we have at the Minerals Commission? How many materials engineers do we have at the Minerals Commission? That is a commission that must get our best people sitting in that commission. Unfortunately, our best people are in the mining areas because they have a perception that they have the better pay. But we need to encourage people having gotten 5 years in the mining industry to move into regulation with the regulatory area, to move into the economic area, to move into environmental area, so that we can influence that space. And that space, once influenced, we can then know that we're influencing the economy.